Good evening, everybody. We left off on page 225. Chapter 9. Payton sat on his couch in the Hanover Park apartment stronghold with a bodyguard outside and Melissa Adams inside with him. This was not a social call with her, as it usually was. She was talking business. So we expand the circuit to cover the entire eastern coast of North America. South America shrinks slightly, but no profits lost because of the gain in England and Ireland, she was saying, pointing to the map on the electronic writing pad. I agree, but when you propose this, you have to give an explanation for the drop in sales in South America. Increase in security. I know that, but there's no guarantee she will. She won't like the fact that Sanchez is going to have less to do. She'll be suspicious he'll want to take over her territory in response. Sanchez, the head of the South American branch, was a rival of the leader of the North American branch, and the Civil War in the Diablo was not uncommon. It never escalated to the point of destroying the organization, but it did serve to weaken the other branches and strengthen the winning branch's leader. Melissa nodded. I'll explain it to her. Good. Let's string her along as we can. Payton lay back and turned on the news. Let's see the explosion, he said, smiling slightly. Best-selling science fiction author Connor O'Malley has been found. Lieutenant Kerry O'Malley, Lieutenant Robert Tillman, and their teams approached a Naperville warehouse this morning, recovering the author, who is listed as in critical condition. The hospital's name will not be revealed to protect Mr. O'Malley's privacy. As if the discovery wasn't exciting enough, Lieutenant O'Malley had to disarm a bomb once inside the warehouse. She left shortly afterward with her husband, but Lieutenant Tillman spoke with our reporter on the scene, as did one of Lieutenant O'Malley's CSIs later today. The report cut to Lieutenant Tillman's face. The man had his sunglasses on and kept nervously stiff during the interview. Lieutenant O'Malley got a lead this morning and followed it. It led her to this warehouse I'm standing in front of. It's abandoned, as you can see. The bomb was placed in one of the offices. We aren't disclosing any information about who might have planted the bomb as of yet. Our top concern is Mr. O'Malley's safety and the safety of the people of the surrounding areas. The report cut again to just outside the crime lab. Greg Banning stood in front, speaking quickly in his own nervousness. I guess we're all just hoping Mr. O'Malley will be okay. We're doing our best to catch the person or persons who were involved in this kidnapping, and Lieutenant O'Malley, when she does her best, it's going to get us somewhere. We will catch him. Nowhere is safe for him. Payton clicked the television off angrily. He turned to Melissa. You can't be here. It isn't safe. I thought you said the bomb would definitely go off. I didn't build the friggin' thing. I just led them to the warehouse. I don't know what she did wrong, but she must have done something. Else the bomb would have killed both O'Malleys. Look, you gotta go. If you're seen with me, she'll know we're conspiring. Get out. Now. Melissa picked up her maps and tucked them in her bag. She gathered all the evidence of herself in the apartment, and then gave Payton a quick kiss before she left. Payton started packing. There was no way the guard outside would be able to stop her. She would hunt him down, and unless he was invisible or something, he'd be dead before tomorrow morning. He was packed in a few minutes. He took only what he absolutely needed, and told the bodyguard to remain in place. No reason to make her think he'd left. He went right to his car, and opened the door after putting his stuff in the trunk. He sat down and programmed his GPS for the airport. But the GPS didn't listen. Autodrive kicked in, and the car started moving. The doors locked, and the satellite tracking turned off. Damn rental car, Payton cursed as he attempted to unbuckle his seatbelt. Not now! Not now of all times! Oh shit. The Who's song, Won't Get Fooled Again, started playing from the playlist on the car, and Payton saw exactly where it was driving. Straight for Mallard Lake. Turn right, the calm GPS computer voice told him, and the car automatically took a right. No, damn it, no! Payton said, fiddling with the controls and trying in vain to make it stop. Stop! Stop! The brake was stuck. There was no way out. His seatbelt was locked. The computer was stuck in trap mode or something, he thought bitterly. His only hope was that someone saw the car drive into the lake. Turn left in 2.5 miles. God, stop! Payton pleaded desperately, still fighting with the rental car. A few minutes later, the sadistically calm GPS voice informed him, Destination, Mallard Lake Forest Preserve. Have a nice day. It shut off once it knew it was no longer needed, and went back to the blank screen with the GPS company's logo in front. Payton made desperate, pathetic attempts to get out of the car, to get someone's attention, but the sound dampening on the luxury car made it so that no one would ever turn their heads. The car drove off the road and through the forest preserve. Then it plowed into the lake, and Payton spent his last moments struggling with all his strength. He pulled his knife and slit his seatbelt, thus freeing him from that little problem, but was unable to break the glass. The car was sinking, and sinking faster than a rental should. She did something to it, he thought, because it was filling up with water very quickly. The last thing Payton saw before water rose above his head was her face on the computer screen. "Have a nice day," she said, as his lungs filled up with water. He made one last futile attempt to break the window, and then everything went black. Scene change. "What have you got?" Tillman asked, walking to the fingerprint lab to see Sarah and Greg stooped over something, deep in conversation. "The bomb. It's completely intact. Whoever handled it had gloves on, but not when they tied the wires. They're too small on this particular design. There's no way they could have dexterity with even good gloves. The problem is, the wire's too small to get a print off of, even if we 3D map it. So we're looking for skin cells and coming up empty so far." "Well, keep at it," Tillman told them. "Justin says he talked to Kerry earlier on." "And?" they asked simultaneously. "The last he heard, Connor's in surgery. The hospital is listing him as a critical condition case. I don't know if that's changed yet." They both nodded and turned back to the bomb. "What about the casing?" Sarah asked. "We swabbed the casing, and we powdered it." "What do you mean?" "The inside of the casing," Sarah told Greg. "In order to put something in this small together from scratch, he would have needed to handle the inside." "What if he used gloves for that?" "What if he didn't?" Sarah asked with a smile. "Let's start powdering. We have to place him either at the scene or prove he built the thing." Tillman nodded in approval to see that his team was working, and he left. As soon as he did, Greg asked, "Can you believe that guy?" "What?" "You were there. You saw him right when we exited the warehouse, when they were loading Connor into the ambulance bay. Didn't you hear what he said?" "No. What'd he say?" "He was talking to her about reports, how he's going to have to report that she went into that warehouse against orders." "Seriously? He told her that right as she got out of the building?" "Yeah." "Wow. Where were you?" "Talking to an officer nearby." "Oh," Greg said. He pulled the inner casing apart. "Here we go. Let's get some powder on this and dust it down." Sarah nodded and began working. "How Kerry found this thing, I'll never know. It's so tiny. The same color as the wall, too." "And it was hidden in a corner," Greg said. "How she concentrated on disarming it is what amazes me, after seeing Connor down there." "You swabbed the entire basement room, right?" Sarah asked him as he twisted a brush across the casing. "Yeah," he nodded. "Nikki already confirmed. Blood and vomit is a match to Connor." "The footprints weren't." "Justin's working on those, and the satellite and drone images." Sarah nodded. "I saw you on the news." "No one else was available," Greg explained. "It's nothing to be ashamed of. Is this your first time?" "Yeah." Sarah chuckled. "I've been on twice now. I still get nervous." Greg didn't say anything. "Oh, now don't you even start to say you weren't nervous. You were biting your fingernails off." Greg held out his fingernails for her to see. "Was not," he said childishly. "They're intact." All right, Sarah said with a smile. They continued working on the fingerprint analysis. Meanwhile, Justin and Nikki worked down the hall on the satellite imagery, trace, and footprint analysis. Tillman had checked on their progress not long ago and was now in his office. Nikki examined a piece of trace under a microscope as Justin stared at the computer screen, looking at satellite images. Spectrometer identified this as a largely silicon dioxide, SiO2. "All right," Justin said, not looking up. "But it identified quite a few other little things in here, too. Aluminum, boron, lithium, all less than 1%. "Okay, so it's artificial?" Justin asked, still not looking up from the screen. "I'm almost positive this came from a quarry somewhere. It's 99.15% pure silicon dioxide." "So it wasn't caught in the weather at any point?" "The crystals are also trimmed to exact cubes, no inflections. Perfectly smooth surface. They're all exactly the same size. It's definitely artificial." "What about the other trace we found?" "There were 3 different samples that all looked like the dirt that came off of somebody's boots," Nikki told him. "And they most likely did. The first was silicon dioxide. The second was large quantities of titanium, probably from shaving off of metal in a manual workshop somewhere. An automated factory would have protective shielding for that sort of thing. The third was the most interesting." Justin looked up. "What did you find on that, anyway? Kinda looked a lot like cat litter crystals or something." It's treated basalt, basically. It's composed of only minerals that'll dissolve in water, and it's artificially colored blue. So, what is it? He asked, coming over to study the image under the microscope. It's fish tank gravel. Justin looked up from the microscope and said, "How can you be sure of that? What if it's some other kind of artificial stone? The kind you buy in a souvenir shop, or the kind that you put your plants in?" "I have an aquarium," Nikki told him, "and I take good care of my fish. I only buy this stuff." She held up a pebble. "It's supposed to make the environment feel more natural for the fish. Whoever was in that place had a fairly large quantity of it on their shoes. I'm guessing it spilled while he was changing the water in the tank, and he didn't bother to clean his shoes before he went to the basement to either take over watching Connor or interrogate him." Justin nodded. "So we're looking for a guy with a fish tank." He pursed his lips together for a moment, thinking. "We obviously need another clue, but this'll help. The three soil trace samples were found in different spots, right?" "Right, so we can't say they were from the same sets of shoes." "Okay, well, we'll keep working on it. I haven't been able to get a clear satellite image yet, but I'm still looking." "When you talked to Kerry, did she say when Connor would be out of surgery?" Nikki asked, putting samples back in their respective containers for later examination. "No," Justin replied. "She didn't sound encouraged either." "I'm really praying he pulls through. We need Kerry here, and if he doesn't make it, she probably won't come back," Nikki said. "At least not for a little while." Justin nodded. A moment later, he said, "Connor's a great guy. Ever met him?" He switched to satellite images as he spoke. "Just once or twice, at Christmas parties and a few office parties we've had. I haven't spoken to him at length." "He's a little quirky," Justin said with a smile. "Always has a joke on the tip of his tongue. He's really intelligent, too. We got into a conversation about the origin of the universe. For a writer, he's definitely got a knack for science." "I was never much of a science fiction person, but I'm thinking of reading Juniper. Even though our politics are different, I hear the book is really good." "I haven't read it. I just don't have time," Justin told her. "But hey, bestseller." She nodded. "Yeah, it's probably worth reading," she said with a smile. They were silent for a while before Nikki said, "Did you see the news yesterday, right after the car bomb?" "Yeah, they thought it was a terrorist attack," he chuckled. "I guess it's because it's on their minds, us being on a heightened alert." Nikki nodded. "We're going with the stolen car story, I guess. It's what Greg said he told the medic, and that's why we decided on that. But everyone knows the bomb was deliberately placed inside, which still has people on edge. An exploding fuel tank or something like that would have been better to keep everybody calm." She shrugged. "I guess, but it wouldn't explain why the helicopter went up too. Cut Greg a break. He was in that explosion." "I know," Justin said, looking up. He raised an eyebrow and said in a don't bite my head off tone, "I'm not criticizing." Nikki nodded and changed the subject. "Are you going to search the Dublin Bomb Squad database for Kerry's last case?" "I will soon if I don't find anything here. I think I'll take whatever we get and drive to the hospital around 1900 or so to tell her." Nikki nodded. "Okay, I'd like to come, so tell me when you're leaving." "All right, will do. I'm going to the DNA lab to verify a few things. See you later." "See you," Justin said, not looking up as she left. He continued to study the images, still not seeing anything. He sighed and decided after another few moments to start looking through those bomb squad cases. He had one pulled up on his screen after a few moments. "November 5th, 13 years ago," he muttered, reading it over. "Sergeant Owen McGinnis, Commander." He clicked play, and a middle-aged man with short-cropped gray hair and an Irish accent began speaking. "Command received a tip-off at 0800, November 5th, that a bomb was planted in a home in a grocery off of Cunningham Road." It couldn't have been easier to pronounce, could it? Justin asked aloud. "This event followed a string of bombings this month. Originally, we suspected that they were related to Northern Ireland, but we now understand that this is not the case. Instead, we suspect that they are targeting businesses owned by specific people. The targets are all small business owners, but they are also suspected gang members, or have associated with the suspected gang members in the past. Therefore, we propose that the bomber is a gang member, gaining power by eliminating competition, or is combating the gang in general. We also believe that this is the same bomber responsible for similar attacks for the past 10 years. The team deployed consisted of myself, Officers Kerry O'Malley, Patrick Connolly, Tim Newton, Sandra Finnegan, and Elliot Manning. We approached the store according to procedure and set up a standard perimeter of 305 meters when dealing with this sort of bomb. I moved in first to analyze the bomb, and then O'Malley and Newton followed. Connolly, Finnegan, and Manning remained outside, searching for secondary devices and securing the perimeter. O'Malley began passive scans from her handheld device. Newton and I searched the rest of the grocery to be sure that there were no secondary devices inside. I approached the frozen food aisle and discovered a small package of explosives next to some frozen vegetables. There was a counter, and it was on 0050 as I approached. There was a wire going to the vegetables, indicating a mechanical device inside. I used my handheld device to assess the explosive damage and determined that the wire could be pulled and that the device would still explode but would only damage this aisle. After removing the surrounding vegetables, I alerted the others to stay back. If the wire was not pulled, the device would destroy the store. There was only now 0010 left on the clock, and not enough time for O'Malley and Newton to evacuate. I pulled the wire, and thus was knocked unconscious. I continue my report by stating that I was taken to a nearby hospital and regained consciousness after 7 hours. My bomb suit largely protected me from the blast, but I was still slightly burned and suffered a concussion. Officer O'Malley assumed command after this development. See her report for continuation. Officer Kerry O'Malley, Acting Commander, Justin read the title block of the next video in the blog. He was thoroughly interested. McGinnis may not have been a riveting storyteller, but Kerry never told him much about this particular part of her life. He clicked play and saw a much younger version of Kerry pop up on the screen. Her hair was longer, tied back in a ponytail. She tapped her fingers on the table with nervous energy until she received the cue from the person filming that she should begin. After Sergeant McGinnis was knocked unconscious from the blast in the vegetable aisle of the said store, I assumed command of the operation and began to disarm the bomb I had located in the meat department of the store. The bombs in the past month were similarly constructed, but we were unable to salvage any part of the bomb after deconstruction for the investigation. This time, though, we were able to improvise because the bomb was in the meat department was counting down and was at 0140 upon my arrival. I suggested we cut the loop wire, as we referred to it, but it is a seemingly pointless wire that loops back into the bomb counter. But it's not actually useless. It carries an electrically charged conductor on the wires, capable of being transferred to anything metal, such as a knife. If we cut the loop wire, we would be subjected to severe electrical shock because of the attraction between the conductor on the knife and some oppositely charged material on the back of the casing. More than likely, the knife and casing would come into close enough contact to detonate the explosives. A quick scan of the device showed, however, that the loop wire was also connected to an essential circuit. If we cut the loop wire, we would also destroy the bomb detonation. I performed this action after informing my colleagues, and the bomb stopped counting down. To eliminate the threat of electrical sparks or delayed detonation, I threw away the knife instantly after cutting the loop wire, and I had a jamming device already operating on several frequencies. We were able to process the bomb counter, casing, and explosives for fingerprints, and discovered that the fingerprints matched to a woman named Taylor Smith, almost certainly an alias. We discovered that her most frequently used codename online is Carbon-14. We are now attempting to locate Smith, using the data we have compiled from the crime scenes similar to this one, and we will hand over all information on the bombs we have analyzed to the CSI. Justin searched police records for an arrest of Taylor Smith, or anyone codenamed Carbon-14. He found nothing. The CSI team of Dublin 13 years ago must not have been successful in its endeavors. But what was exceptionally odd was that Smith's case wasn't even in cold cases. That was definitely something to bring up with Kerry when he saw her. He sighed and leaned back for a moment, rubbing his eyes. If you feel tired, imagine how Kerry feels, he thought. He stood up and decided to go check in with Spencer. We'll read more tomorrow.